Hello, it is I, once again, here on another day, just to talk some shit. So, damn, how do I start this? Well, I just got back from work. I'm finally employed, which is fun and dandy. I'm using a mic today because, I was using my webcam that has a mic, but I think we'll get better audio from this. Anyways, I'm also sick, if you didn't notice, but yeah. So, other day I was just, I was just in my living room thinking about life, the way shit goes, and I came up with the question of if anything in life is like really in our control. And this led me to start thinking about like the concept of predetermination and self-determination. So, or predeterminism and self-determinism, or yeah. So, for me, predeterminism is basically a system where your life is already known and it's controlled by some kind of like deity or God. So, like for me, as like a Christian, that would mean like God or Jesus would be the one that does this. And there's like Bible verses that support this notion, like about how God knew you before you were born and things of that nature. So basically, God, like, he knows like what events are going to happen in your life and how it's all going to go. And he already knows that. So then that's not really within your control. You just kind of live through whatever's already uh, within his knowledge. Self-determinism is basically where you have full control of your life, and your actions and your desires, they all help move your life forward. So nothing controls where you end up except you. So basically all your decisions end up taking you to your death or your final, moments, and nothing controls that. So when I define these, I basically came up with three questions. Which of these is more fair? Which of these holds room for free will? And does predeterminism hold room for merit? So I'm going to take a sip of tea. So question one. Between self-determinism and predeterminism, which one is more fair? So obviously when I'm talking about fairness, I'm saying basically which one allows for more equal opportunity for the person there and for everyone that's under that system. So when you're looking at predeterminism, clearly that shit ain't fair because, I mean, because at the end of the day, the individual is not choosing who they become and what they are. It's some other governing force, the deity, that chooses what you are and what you become. Um, and you can see, like, because I mean, and that goes further into my point of why maybe I don't fully believe in predeterminism, because it's like, who the freak is gonna choose to be homeless? Who's gonna choose to live in like a country that's in war? You know what I mean? Like, who's gonna choose to live in shitty households? Like, no one chooses that. So it's like, well, I guess that would support my belief in predeterminism, because if people did choose, I don't think anyone's choosing to be in those situations. Although I guess some of those metrics are out of your control, but I digress. And then when you look at a self-determinism, clearly that has more freedom, where you're able to choose what you do, where you go, and and at the end of the day, whatever happens to you is your fault, and there's no one you can blame. So I think that is truly more fair. So I think self-determinism is much more fair than predeterminism overall. So for question two, which one of these two holds room for free will? So obviously free will is the ability to do what you want, when you want, how you want, in whatever manner you want to do it. So in predeterminism, there really is no free will, because everything you do is already determined and known by the God, right? So you don't choose what you do; it's chosen for you, and you just do it. But the fucked up thing about it is that if you're living in a predeterminist paradigm, I don't know if that's a phrase, but if you're living under a predeterminist paradigm, it feels like free will because you don't know that the things you're doing are already known and in someone else's control. So it feels like you're making the decisions and it feels like it's self-determinism, but it's really not because someone already knows what you're going to be doing and someone already chose what you're going to be doing. But to you, because you don't know, you feel, oh, I'm making my own decisions. I'm free. Um, because yeah, I have a script here. I said like basically it's like you're simply living off of the script that was written for you without your input. You didn't choose whatever was written. You're just doing it. You know what I mean? And then this gets into my other point of can you break out of predeterminism, right? If predeterminism is the manner in which we live, can you break out of it? And I think maybe you can, but I think it's very hard because of what I said previously about how to someone that lives under predeterminism, it feels like self-determinism, right? I mean, let's assume predeterminism is the way we're existing. No one would know that, you know what I mean? Because everyone does what they want and they think, oh, I'm just doing what I want, not knowing that you're not actually doing what you want. You're doing what has been already, you know, known that you will be doing. So it gives you kind of like this false sense of free will. And this free will I feel is not really, or free will in quotes, this free will is not really free will, but to me I feel like it's more of just a lack of knowledge. Because if you knew what was predetermined for you, if there was something in it you didn't like, perhaps you would go against it, right? Let's say it was predetermined for you to, I don't know, get into a car accident that would like paralyze your legs. You would probably not want that to happen. You'd probably want to, not do that. But you would have to know that that's going to happen to avoid that, right? You know what I'm saying? But the other thing is, even if you did know, would you be able to fight it? Because it's possible that even knowing wouldn't even help you, and it would just be meaningless. Because once again, we're talking about some all-powerful deity.
I am the Alpha.
You're just a guy or a gal. You can't really do much about that. So it's kind of like the question of, actually, no, I won't say that. It's kind of like at the end of the day, even if you knew what was written, even if you try to work against it, it's still gonna work with it. Oh, hold on, how do I explain this? It's like, I feel like predeterminism is so broken because it's like, even if you know what's written, even if you try to work against it, it's still gonna loop to being what was written because you just can't break out of that shit, I feel. And it's kind of like the question of like, do you want to know how you die or when you die? And more specifically, how you die. Because let's say, for example, you learn you're going to die from being eaten by like a shark. You can live your whole life on a mountain in the middle of like a landform. But at the end of the day, something's going to happen where somehow, some way, a shark is going to eat you, right? Like you can't, like you can know a shark's going to eat me, so I'm going to go live on top of a mountain. But somehow, some way, you still will die by a shark. Like you can't escape that shit. It's gonna come for you whether you like it or not. So, but I have an analogy that can maybe just a thought experiment on maybe what would happen if you did gain that knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So, the analogy is, let's say there's a book somewhere out there in the universe. It has your name on it, and let's say you get access to this book. You open the book, and the book basically has like your birth, your parents and their history, your birth, your childhood, all the things that have happened to your life up to the point of you reading that book, right? Now, there are four things that can happen once you get to the point of you reading the book. Once you get to the point where the book states that you read the book. First, the book could be blank after it states that you read it. So if it's blank after it states that you read the book, that can mean one of two things. One, you've defeated predeterminism. Woo, congratulations. So you can now live a free life, not predetermined, and sorry, I had a brain fart. You can live a life not predetermined, and all your new actions and your new decisions will be written down as you do them. Fun, cool, great. Or if it's still blank, that means you're at the end of your life and you die. Yeah. Now, the other option is that after it says you read the book, it then states the rest of your life till you die, right? So there's other stuff written down. You do this, you do this, you do this, then you die on this date or whatever the fuck, right? If that was what happens, you have another two options. Number one, you have defeated predeterminism. Congratulations. You can now maybe act contrary to what is written and live a life of self-determinism, right? So you can ignore what's in the book because you now know what's in there, and you can just live a free life. And the second option, which I think is the worst, although I guess dying sucks, but the second one, which is worse, is you know what's in the book, you struggle against it, you try to work against it, but you just can't break from it, and you basically just end up living the life that's already written down. Now, I think that's like the worst fate, because it's like, at that point, it's like you kind of just have to accept that your life is not yours and that it's belongs to, the God, which some people are down for that, some people aren't. But I think, like, out of all the fates, I think that one's like probably the worst. I mean, dying sucks. Once again, dying is not great, but obviously dying, I think, like, living a life that's already determined, so like nothing surprises you. You know when you're gonna die. You know, like, all the bad stuff is gonna happen to you, but you can't escape it because it's gonna happen whether you like it or not. It just sucks. So with that being said, you then get to the question of, is predeterminism bad, right? Because I'm gonna take a sip of tea. Hold on. Is predeterminism bad? So I think this ultimately depends on both the individual and the deity that is controlling the individual's destiny. Because let's say the individual is like very submissive and they don't mind, right? For example, in Christianity, which follows predeterminism, people they accept that God controls our lives. God knows like the best way for us, and his will for us, whether it's a good thing, like, I don't know, having a child, or that's debatable, be a good thing. A good thing, like, I don't know, getting a new job, or a bad thing, like getting kidnapped. Everything works out to be good. You know what I mean? But if we moved outside of that, because in the Christian aspect, it's that God has good plans for you, and he, in the end, everything works out. Now, I still have qualms with that, because I mean, there's still people that are just born in countries that aren't that great, and then they just die at young ages. Or there's like children that get like kidnapped, and then they get assaulted, and then they get killed, and it's like, damn, that's insane. Was that the good plan God had for that kid? Like, so I still don't fully grasp that, he has good thoughts towards you. But I mean, me personally, I know, I mean, my life isn't too bad so far. So, but So I think it's determined on whether the person is willing to submit to the predetermined life that they've been given, but it's also determined on if the deity is acting in good faith, which under Christianity, sure, yes, God is, but if you don't believe in that, then that's a different discussion that I hope you think about. Question 3. This is a random one. Does predeterminism hold a room for merit? So merit obviously is, the harder you work, the more rewards you get. And while this is clearly fake, especially in like the Western world, plenty of examples of why that's the case. Um, there are some people that do have merit, like athletes and, scientists and people like that. Um, so I'll use an example. Let's say like oh my god, what's her name? That one, hold on. Female tennis player. I don't remember her name. I know this lady, Naomi Osaka. We'll use her. Okay. Let's say you're Naomi Osaka, right? Your life has been predetermined that you will be a world class women's tennis player, right? That is just your fate, right? You don't get to choose if you want to be a singer. You don't get to choose if you want to be a dancer. You don't get to choose if you want to be like a Twitch streamer or a pastor. No, you're going to be a professional tennis player. That is your fate. It has been determined. Everything from your birth to where you are now will just be you being a tennis player, right? So the question I had was, is there merit in a person that reaches, because like she's obviously a very high level tennis player, so did she work for that if it was predetermined? Because if it's predetermined, she was gonna be that whether she liked it or not. You know what I mean? Right? It wasn't like she was like self-determined to do it and then she became it. It was something that was pushed onto her by a deity. Now, the conclusion I got to this question was yes, because once again, self-determinism, the predeterminism gives you a false sense of free will. But despite that, someone like Naomi Osaka, she still did the work. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like she didn't do anything. She just sat around, failed upwards, and became a tennis player that was really good. No, she still did the training, won the games, did the studying, locked in, and made the stats, did the performances. You know what I mean? Performed well. So it's not really a question of did you do the work, because these people clearly did the work. In a predeterminist paradigm, I'm making up terms, in a predeterminist paradigm, it's not really a matter of did you work hard to get where you are. It's more like did you choose it. You know what I mean? And sure, some people, maybe they did choose it. But, when you have a deity that controls every aspect of your life, it's like they could have, they could have, because maybe she was inspired. I don't know her story, but maybe she was inspired by, like, I don't know, watching some random tennis player when she was younger, and that's why. So maybe God like placed her in certain areas in her life so that she would see that player, and then you don't know. You just don't know. And I'm just talking like I'm off, like I'm on crack cocaine and a little bit of fent, but you just don't know, right? But I do think that even in a predeterminist paradigm, merit is still there, because the people that, the athletes, the scientists, the artists, they still worked hard. They still locked in. They may not have within their soul chosen it, but they still worked hard to get where they are today. And I think that should be respected. Yeah, well, I think that's all. I think that's all for me. So the reason why I thought about all this was like a week or two ago that I thought about this stuff. Sorry, I'm sniffing in the mic. The reason why I thought about all this was I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and